Focus on the camera lens. Give us a smile, family. Let's see those bright grins. Keep them coming. These archival frames capture a vibrant young spirit radiating joy. This is Leanne Martinez, a solo parent fueled by massive ambitions. A quiet resident of Taos, New Mexico, her presence offered zero indication of the approaching shadows. No signs warned of the impending doom. I pushed the door open, saw a body, and froze in my tracks. Yet, one fateful morning, her mother stumbled upon a trauma profound enough to permanently fracture their family's soul. Recording this felt essential since these moments were rare. Was the perpetrator a known figure in her life? An anonymous hunter or a monster cloaked in normalcy? The terrifying possibility of a serial offender began to emerge. How does a daughter find her way when her mother's laughter remains trapped within the echoes of the past? Born in 1980 to Emily and Lee Martinez, the young girl possessed an unmistakable inner light from day one. Though a placid infant, the passing years transformed her natural gentleness into a fierce and daring charisma. A clever tomboy with razor-sharp wit, she commanded attention effortlessly. Her magnetic presence was impossible for anyone to ignore. Her connection with Valerie was unbreakable. Even during the most grueling times, a quick chat with Leanne provided instant solace. She possessed a rare talent for effortlessly illuminating the darkest corners of human experience. That's a disturbing concept, you fool. The camera was zoomed so tightly I could see every tooth. Within the tight-knit community of Taos, she was a familiar face, yet her intense ambition distinguished her from peers. Holding a job by 16, she sought total autonomy, craving her own financial resources and the liberty they provided. This resolve culminated in the acquisition of her dream vehicle, a 2001 Ford Mustang in striking crimson. That Mustang became her crowning achievement. Maintaining it with obsessive detail, she frequently enlisted her father's expertise to ensure its mechanical perfection. She'd seek my help for everything, from oil changes to brake pads. That vehicle brought her a profound sense of satisfaction. It was her absolute treasure, and from then on, the driver's seat became her secondary home. Youthful and liberated, she carved her own way forward. Eventually, romance entered the frame, attracting numerous interested men. Finding male company was effortless, though she remained disinterested in any long-term or weighty commitments. Her carefree era ended upon meeting Javier. Their dynamic was erratic, defined by a constant push and pull of emotion. Javier existed on the periphery, a ghost who refused to either stay or vanish completely from her world. The trajectory changed at 19 when she discovered she was pregnant. Starting a family so young was never her intention. The memory of her weeping lingers. The reality of the situation left her utterly petrified. Suddenly facing motherhood, the daunting horizon felt insurmountable, especially with Javier's continued and conspicuous absence. The Martinez clan mobilized instantly. A shower was organized by her mother and sister, gathering a community of supporters. Handcrafted gifts are wonderful. The gathering of loved ones filled her with delight. What started as pure terror gradually shifted into eager expectation. On March 22, 1999, Leanne finally welcomed her newborn daughter, Estrea, into the world. The world looked different from that point on. Celebrations for a new life began. The child became her gravitational center, creating an indissoluble bond. Every waking moment was now dedicated to Estrea. Navigating the dual demands of parenting and future goals, she cautiously re-entered the realm of romantic pursuit. In May 2002, she linked up with Ashton Solano, a co-worker from her place of employment. Initially, their union projected an image of stability, at least to those viewing it from afar. Yet, a darker reality simmered beneath. Those near her noticed his stifling, possessive nature and the growing toxicity. An unrelenting friction defined their interactions. In a fit of rage, he smashed her windshield with a bottle. This violent act left a permanent psychological stain, not merely on the vehicle's glass, but on the soul of their partnership. During the summer of 2002, a series of disturbing anomalies began to plague her home. She confided that mundane items, a toothbrush, some hair product, were mysteriously disappearing from their usual spots. These weren't isolated events. Most baffling was finding the furnace cranked to 90 degrees in the mid-June heat. Individually, these occurrences seemed bizarre yet perhaps inconsequential. Collectively, these anomalies formed an inexplicable trend, a prelude to a nightmare that had only just commenced. On July 13, 2002, 3 weeks following those bizarre disturbances, Leanne Martinez finally had an evening to herself. She left young Estrea with her mother around 5 or 6 p.m., hoping for a brief, tranquil reprieve from reality. Accompanied by her friend Julie, she piloted her crimson Mustang toward the festivities in nearby Española, a town where Leanne's social circle knew no bounds. The itinerary was straightforward: a night out followed by an early reunion with her daughter. But when dawn broke, Leanne was nowhere to be found. With every passing minute, a cold dread began to permeate the family's household. By sundown, the anxiety peaked, driving Emily and several relatives toward Leanne's residence for a welfare check. The driveway's empty space where the Mustang belonged signaled immediate trouble. Heart racing, Emily reached for the front door and pushed it open. Darkness swallowed the interior. She ventured just deep enough to peer toward the sleeping quarters before freezing in her tracks. Pure terror took hold. Upon glancing inside, she was met with the sight of a lifeless figure sprawled in the shadows. Suddenly, the foundations of her existence were violently uprooted. A mother's ultimate nightmare materialized in that hallway. The reality where her child breathed vanished, replaced by a devastating new truth. It was a visual trauma no parent should ever endure, let alone witness firsthand. Authorities swarmed the rural, one-story house, establishing a perimeter. Their attention immediately shifted to a glaring omission from the scene. The bright red Mustang was gone. Emily's description of the vehicle became the investigators' primary lead. The missing car, her most prized possession, cast an even darker shadow over the unfolding tragedy. Investigators combed the exterior for signs of a breach, yet the glass remained intact, the frames unmarred, and the locks undisturbed. The living room glowed with a deceptive normalcy, its illuminated stillness betraying none of the violence that had transpired. A portrait on the wall captured a radiant Leanne and Estrea, a haunting reminder of a bond severed far too soon. A half-eaten meal sat on a table nearby, a frozen moment from a routine night turned lethal. Whether that meal belonged to the victim or an intruder was unclear, but a grim trail led forensics toward the master bedroom. Embossed in dried blood on the linoleum, a distinct footwear impression revealed a precise, unmistakable heel pattern. This mute piece of evidence offered a profile, identifying the specific brand and style of the killer's footwear. It suggested a shoe size and held the potential for biological markers, raising the question of whose blood stained the tread. Identifying the source of that forensic evidence would be the turning point between a cold trail and a suspect. Leanne Martinez was discovered at the bed's edge, her body obstructing the path through the doorway. Clad in only one sock, her arms were thrown back in a posture that suggested a final, desperate plea for mercy. The attack involved numerous blade strikes, including severe lacerations to her neck that indicated a brutal, decisive assault. The savage nature of the crime suggested an intimate violation, though the physical struggle remained localized within the bedroom walls. The killer made no effort to sanitize the room or fabricate a theft. While her handbag's contents were strewn about, it appeared chaotic rather than calculated. Valuable electronics like the television and stereo were ignored, suggesting profit was never the killer's objective. With the locks intact, a chilling theory emerged. Leanne might have willingly admitted her killer into the home. The slaying of a mother in her sanctuary rattled the veteran investigators, leaving a scar on the small community. A place of refuge had been transformed into a macabre theater of forensic analysis. A statewide alert for the Crimson Mustang was immediately broadcast, enlisting the public and police in a desperate search. Detectives hoped the stolen vehicle would serve as a moving beacon, leading them directly to the perpetrator. The ripples of grief spread as family and friends were forced to confront the impossible reality of her death. Her brother recalled the moment the news broke, his body collapsing as he struck the asphalt in a fit of powerless rage. The sheer weight of the tragedy defied all comprehension. Her father's final memory was of them tinkering with the Mustang, a fatherly warning echoing in the air as they drove away forever. Ghostly echoes of "I love you" and casual family banter now serve as a tragic soundtrack to a life extinguished. The family was left broken, while 3-year-old Estrea faced a future devoid of her primary source of love and security. Decades later, fragmented memories of a car ride with her relatives would remain her only link to that dark day. She vividly remembers her grandmother entering the house and emerging in tears, a final curtain closing on her childhood memories. All that lingered was a profound, aching void that would shadow her for the rest of her life. Investigators began meticulously reconstructing the final moments of Leanne's timeline. Her mother recalled that on July 13, 2002, Leanne planned a night out with Julie, who confirmed their 10:30 p.m. departure. They ventured toward Española, drawn by the local festivities that were lighting up the night. A call from Ashton Solano prompted a detour. While Leanne stayed inside the vehicle, a sharp, hostile confrontation erupted between them. When asked about the friction, Julie suggested it stemmed from his increasingly erratic and irrational behavior. Did the dispute involve the use of illicit substances like marijuana? That was the catalyst. Leanne walked away, visibly shaken, a detail that detectives flagged as a pivotal turning point. A possessive partner, a volatile exchange, and a young woman retreating into the night fueled by resentment. Ashton was no longer a background character. He had transitioned into a primary person of interest. Seeking an escape from the tension, she and Julie arrived back in town at approximately 2:30 in the morning. Claiming exhaustion, she headed for her bed. It would be the final time anyone saw her breathing. Only hours after that high-tension standoff, Leanne's lifeless body was discovered within the sanctuary of her own residence. Police focused on the domestic dispute, knowing crimes of passion often mirror intimate friction, while her family harbored deep-seated doubts regarding Ashton. Her inner circle had repeatedly pleaded with her to sever ties and distance herself from him entirely. A profound lack of trust defined their view of him, fueling suspicions of his involvement in the tragedy. Authorities interrogated Ashton, but his account of the night appeared to align with the sequence of events provided by the witness. He maintained that all communication ceased once she drove away. Without physical evidence, detectives lacked the legal grounds to detain him. He was permitted to leave, remaining just outside the formal definition of a suspect for the time being. Soon, a fresh piece of intelligence surfaced, provided by those closest to the victim. Weeks prior, Leanne had mentioned a series of unsettling intrusions at her house where minor belongings vanished without explanation. Items like a stereo, toiletries, and snacks were taken, and doors were found unlatched, though high-value goods remained untouched. While seemingly trivial then, these bizarre occurrences took on a predatory and ominous tone after her death. Could these silent trespasses have been the grim prelude to her eventual homicide? Perhaps an intruder returned and chose to eliminate the only witness. Meanwhile, mourners gathered to pay their final respects. The outpouring of grief was so massive that law enforcement had to redirect traffic along the main thoroughfare. Her 3-year-old daughter, Estrea, was far too small to grasp the crushing finality of the situation. Enveloped in a sadness she couldn't name, she moved restlessly from one relative to another throughout the service. The child's tears were incessant. It was a senseless end that no human being should ever endure. The medical examiner's findings were grim, revealing numerous lethal lacerations, including a devastating wound to her chest cavity. Forensic analysis confirmed she had also been subjected to a brutal physical violation before her life was taken. A glimmer of hope remained in the biological material recovered at the scene, which held the potential to identify her killer. A terrifying pattern emerged. 1 week prior, another woman, Mariora Shan, was found murdered nearby in an eerily similar fashion. The two crime scenes were separated by a distance of less than 2 miles. 2 fatalities in a week, both targeting women living alone. The community feared a predator was on the hunt. The prevailing concern among the task force was that they were hunting a calculated serial killer. Detectives scrutinized every aspect of the victims' lives, searching for shared social circles or religious affiliations. Despite exhaustive interviews, no common thread could be established between the two women. A breakthrough arrived via a neighbor, Joseph Steele, who noticed something suspicious while his dog was barking. He observed a Hispanic male with a shorn head, wearing a light checkered shirt, traversing the field toward Leanne's property. The witness estimated the man's height to be between 5 feet 9 and 5 feet 11 inches. He appeared to weigh roughly 220 pounds, possessing a stout build and a bald scalp. He watched the figure vanish into the shadows, unaware of the horror that would be uncovered the following morning. This profile did not align with Ashton, who was significantly lighter at 150 pounds and had a full head of hair. Forced back to the beginning, the investigation stalled until a phone call provided a new trajectory. Leanne's crimson Mustang had been located abandoned in the vicinity of a middle school in Albuquerque. Forensic specialists meticulously processed the vehicle, uncovering biological traces and recovering latent prints that promised to crack the case. The investigation gained momentum after a surge of public leads followed the intense media scrutiny surrounding Leanne's homicide. While most reports proved fruitfulness, a single statement from a woman named Dawn shifted the entire trajectory of the manhunt. She detailed how her cousin, Richard Fresquez, made a sudden appearance on the afternoon of July 14th, driving the red Mustang tied to the scene. He arrived that Sunday afternoon, boasting about a new vehicle he claimed to have just acquired. Behind the wheel of the red Mustang, he seemed composed, yet he showed a bizarre, fixated concern over his worn-out sneakers. Later that day, Dawn and her partner headed out to run errands at local shops. Fresquez joined them, purchasing a fresh pair of shoes and immediately tossing his old ones into the trash upon their return. After spending the night, he vanished the following morning, heading toward California while still in possession of the Mustang. Detectives finally had a concrete identity. Richard Fresquez was no longer a shadow. He was a primary person of interest. He became the central target of the manhunt, with the stolen vehicle serving as the mobile crime scene they needed to recover. Investigators scoured the refuse near Dawn's residence, eventually recovering the footwear Fresquez had discarded in a hurry. Those shoes were vital pieces of evidence, matching the bloody impressions left behind at both crime scenes. They also discovered a brown plaid shirt identical to the clothing described by a witness who saw a man approaching Leanne's home. Fresquez was already well known to the system, an ex-convict with a history of residential burglaries. His criminal record revealed a chilling signature. He often stole food, mirroring the odd disappearance of snacks from Leanne's kitchen earlier that week. A multi-state alert was broadcasted, putting California law enforcement on high alert for the suspect's location. A search of his own residence turned up no murder weapon or blood-soaked garments. However, they discovered photographs of Leanne's property from previous visits, confirming he had been stalking the residence for some time. As the forensic trail grew longer, the investigative team became convinced of Fresquez's direct involvement in the killing. Yet a darker question remained. Was he also responsible for the death of Mariora Shan? Could they be hunting a serial predator? Seeking more insight into his character, detectives interviewed Leanne's sister, Valerie, to understand the suspect's history. Valerie recalled knowing him from their school days, a loose acquaintance spanning roughly 7 years. Their connection was distant. Leanne had always harbored a deep-seated distrust of the man, a sentiment shared by her peers. He radiated a disturbing energy that kept everyone on edge, and Leanne would never have permitted him to touch her car. The case reached a fever pitch as authorities realized Fresquez had already crossed state lines into California. Federal marshals eventually apprehended him in Palma Desert, taking him into custody for an intense interrogation. When questioned about the Mustang, Fresquez spun a story about a friend lending him the vehicle for a trip to Albuquerque. The detective pressed him on the claim, questioning how he could simply be handed a vehicle and cash for fuel. He insisted the unnamed friend told him to take the car, offering gas money and a meeting point in New Mexico. He vehemently denied the homicide, claiming his flight was motivated purely by panic. He told investigators he was terrified, claiming he lost his mind the moment his face appeared on the nightly news. He begged for empathy, questioning what anyone would do when their identity is suddenly broadcast to the masses. While acknowledging their shared school history, he maintained that he had not crossed paths with Leanne on the night she died. His timeline was riddled with holes, involving a vague party near Gorge Junction that lacked any verifiable witnesses. His figging narrative and defensive posture only solidified the investigators' belief in his guilt. But the detectives were holding an ace. Forensic data the suspect never anticipated. Lab analysis confirmed his biological profile was on Leanne, and her blood was found on his discarded clothing and footwear. During the interrogation, an officer bluntly revealed they had recovered his shoes and matched the DNA to the crime scene. Even faced with undeniable science, Fresquez maintained his innocence and demanded legal representation. He eventually tried to pivot, claiming the encounter was agreed upon before an argument took a violent turn. It was a desperate defense that failed to sway the jury, who returned with a decision in less than 4 hours. Richard Fresquez received a life sentence for the murder, leaving a community and a family shattered by the tragedy. Her daughter Estrea, now approaching 21, continues to struggle with the void left by her mother's absence. She lamented the fact that she has no living memories of her mother, not even the sound of her voice. Her life ended at 22. Every passing year only sharpens the grief, cementing the chilling reality that her mother remains permanently frozen in time. Amidst the void, Estrea leans on her family's unwavering devotion, their endurance, and her mother's shadow. Elsewhere, the Mariora Shan homicide reached a separate resolution. Authorities ultimately indicted 18-year-old Nathaniel Duran. The breakthrough decoupled this tragedy from Leanne's, dismantling the local panic regarding a predator stalking TA. For further investigations into the darkness, join the Crime 13 community, the echoes of a broken sanctuary. In the quiet corners of Taos, A vibrant light was extinguished, leaving behind a silence that screams. The story of Leanne Martinez is more than a tragic archive of a life stolen. It is a profound testament to the fragile boundaries of safety and the devastating ripple effects of violence. The most chilling lesson lies in the minor anomalies, the missing hair products, the unlatched doors, the unexplained heat. We often dismiss our intuition as paranoia, yet Leanne's story urges us to listen to the whispers of our survival instincts. In a world where monsters often wear the mask of normalcy, vigilance is not a burden, it is a lifeline. Beyond the forensics, we see the enduring trauma of the hollow chair. A daughter's childhood was fractured, replaced by a lifelong search for a mother's voice she can no longer remember. This is the true cost of violence. It doesn't just end a life, it bankrupts the future of those left behind. Let this be a call to action. Cherish your sanctuary, trust your gut, and never underestimate the weight of an "I love you." Justice was served in a courtroom, but the true victory lies in our collective commitment to protecting the lights that haven't yet gone out.